Selamat sore, good afternoon, welcome back to another Bali COVID-19 update. This is for September 14th, 2021. And lots of stuff today, and there may be some noise in the background. It has gotten so windy. The weather seems like it's getting ready to change already, going from the dry season to the wet season. It is windier, and the waves are pounding outside. We don't usually get waves here. And there's more noise than usual in noisy Kampung Bugis because, well, some stuff just blew off here because it is so windy, for one, and people are in a rush to winterize, well, I call it winterizing, rainify their houses, because everybody feels like the wet season is going to start here early, and so lots of work being done on roofs, including mine, and I just had mine painted with a bunch of layers of no drop to keep the rain from leaking through the concrete into here, because over the years there have been cracks in the concrete, the sun, the rain, the salt, and I've got some drips here and over there and over there, and so it's been years since we painted the roof, my son and I, and this time I got one of the local handymen to do it for us, and so we hope that we're ready for the rainy season, because I think it's going to be a bad one this year. Okay, let's take a look at the numbers, and they're good again. And so the 7-day average for new positive cases, 255. This is the 18th day in a row that we've had a declining average. So really good news. And 7-day average for deaths has dropped to 17. Okay, is level 3 coming on Monday? We'll see soon. And the count for all of Indonesia, 5,001 new cases. Okay, and more good news. And what about the testing? 143,100 tests in Indonesia yesterday, 3.50% positive. And the 7-day average, 4.28%. So, wow, great news. I'm feeling pumped again. And what about testing in Bali? 27,692 individuals in the last 7 days, and that gives us an achievement rate of 170.83%. And the 7-day positivity rate is down to 4.18%. Okay, and just recently we were at 12, so more good news. And what about the vaccination numbers? Vaccinations, first dose, 3,242,682, 72.6% of the population. And second dose, getting close to 50, 2,170,028, 48.6%. Okay, 50 is just around the corner. Why is 50 important? Psychologically, it's important. We get 50% of the population fully vaxxed. That's big. And yesterday, 2,466 additional doses were distributed. And what about the numbers? Here, 227 new cases. Wow. Down, down, down. Recoveries, 329. Deaths, 16. And active cases is now down to 4,319. So all the news about numbers is looking good. And what about vaccines and vaccinations? Well, I don't have time to report on that today. I'll talk about that on Wednesday in detail. But we got a bunch of new vaccines coming in, all sorts of vaccines. Sinovac, Pfizer, Johnson, AstraZeneca. So good news there. Eventually we're going to get this whole country vaccinated. That is going to be great. And speaking about vaccinations and numbers, this is some more good news. According to the Bali Task Force, 404 COVID-19 patients recovered. All districts and cities in Bali are now moved from red to orange. Wow. Okay. Good. Are we looking at opening up on the horizon? Boy, I hope so. And what's happening in Bali. I've talked many times before about how the coronavirus era, the pandemic era, is affecting people here financially. Well, some good news. Buleleng residents are going to receive financial assistance. This is for people that are poor in Buleleng, not everybody. They will begin receiving assistance after 2 months after the restrictions, which in some news sources called partial lockdown, which isn't really a lockdown. The head of the Buleleng Social Agency confirmed that 3,634 residents of Buleleng will begin receiving financial assistance this week. Well, they did start receiving financial assistance this week, and they hadn't been able to receive it before because of some glitches with verification process. And they were able to pick up their first payment at the local post office. Each registered resident will receive 200,000 rupees per month. Okay, that's not much money. So this is for the poor, not for everybody here. In order for residents to continue to receive this payment as long as this program lasts, they need to finish their registration before Wednesday of this week, on the 15th. If they don't complete the registration by the 15th, they will be disqualified for receiving any further aid. I said that the payments were delayed because of the necessity of verification. What about this? The residents had to be checked. So he said we don't want anyone to receive double aid. That's why we chose to focus on collecting data first. So they don't want to give out aid to people that aren't eligible, and they don't want people to get double payments. And so it took time for the verification process, which has been completed, and payments are, as I said, being distributed now. So some good news for people who are in dire circumstances here in Buleleng. The effects of the pandemic in Bali aren't just affecting people, they're affecting monkeys as well. If you've been to Ubud, you know about the famous monkey forest, and you may have had photos of yourself with those creatures, the macaques, sitting on your shoulder, stealing your camera, stealing whatever you've got. Well, nobody's there to feed them anymore. There's no tourist, and they are fed by the local banjar, and it's an expensive deal, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But the banjar is running out of money, and monkeys are getting hungry, and so they have started to move out into Ubud. And if you're on any of the social media sites for Ubud, you may have seen some photos that were posted the other day of monkeys out on Jalan Raya, Ubud. They're looking for food, and local residents are reporting that monkeys invading their house looking for food in their kitchens or in their gardens. According to Pak Luhut, there's 3 different groups of monkeys inside the monkey forest. One living deep in the jungle, one in the center, and one on the edges. And the one in the deep forest, they're getting hungry. They've been moving up towards the village, towards the populated areas, pushing the monkeys in the other areas up, forward, and out, because they can't defend themselves. Apparently the monkeys in the back are more aggressive, or more of them. There's approximately 1,000 monkeys living in the monkey forest at this point. Under normal conditions, about 6,000 tourists a day visit the monkey forest. Wow, that is amazing. I have not been to the monkey forest in a long time. And so with 6,000 tourists, there were a number of workers there taking care, showing people around, managing the monkeys, making sure people don't get, bitten, and they do get bitten. The monkey forest is 26 hectares, so that's a lot of space to take care of, and 1,000 monkeys, a lot of monkeys, and normally cost approximately 120 million rupiah every month to feed the monkeys. Now, translate that into US dollars if you're not used to. Rupiah, $8,300 more or less. That's a month. And so they've been struggling to be able to afford the food and to pay the workers. And because of the financial crunch, they've had to reduce the working hours for the staff at the monkey forest. And so, yeah, this is not a good situation. Monkeys, if you have any experience with them, and I've had plenty, they can be extremely aggressive when they're hungry and they're looking for food. We had them on our farm when we had the farm in Sumbawa, and we had a whole troop behind our house. They got very aggressive, and these macaques get very big and they're very fast, so they're dangerous, and so this is not a good situation. Hopefully they'll be able to do something about this, and so the people involved in running the monkey forest are looking for some financial relief from the Gianyar Regency, hoping to get some funding so that they can keep feeding the monkeys and keep paying the salaries of their workers. And some more on what's happening in Bali. A couple of videos ago I talked about how the number of arrivals at the Denpasar airport were way down. Well, the numbers have gone up again, and this has just been over the last few weeks, the last few days, and it's believed that this is due to the decrease in prices for the PCR and antigen test. Before the drop in prices for the test, according to the manager of stakeholder relations at the airport, there were about 2,500 arrivals per day. The number has jumped up to 6,000, and that's about 3,000 coming and 3,000 going. The bulk of passengers are coming from the capital, where else, and Surabaya. And if you've been here a long time, you know those are two places where we get most of our domestic tourists, well, Javanese tourists from. The capital and Surabaya. Is there a pattern for arrivals? Yes, there are. Thursdays and Fridays are often dominated by arriving passengers, and on Sunday, everybody goes home. So we're getting people coming in here for the weekend. Okay, that's welcome. Hey, if we're getting 3,000 people coming in for the weekend, that's something. Don't turn anything down at this stage of the game. Okay, and what about foreigners doing naughty things? There's been a few videos since I've talked about that, and I know it irritates some people, the view here, when I do talk about it, but hey, this is what's happening. Well, foreigners disobeying Bali COVID rules. Okay, so we see this again. It's been a while since I've seen this. According to the Deputy Governor of Bali, he's frequently receiving reports about undisciplined behavior from foreigners who are living on the island. The badly behaved foreigners supposedly fail to follow health protocols by refusing to wear a mask in public places and having gatherings in private places where the attendees are gathering without wearing masks. The Deputy Governor's comments were made during a meeting with the Provincial Chief of the Ministry of Justice and Human Rights, Jamaruli, Pak Jamaruli, who you all know, or you've heard of anyway here. And the Deputy Governor said during the meeting that he was aware that many foreigners were still violating Bali's health protocols, damaging Bali's image and impeding the opening of Bali and the control of COVID-19. He said, what's more, the central government recently praised Bali for successfully lowering the number of new cases and the number of deaths related to COVID-19. Don't let this achievement be sullied because of people acting irresponsibly. And so he's talking about us in this case. But it's not only us, it's locals as well. But we need to take responsibility for our own behavior. We can't say, well, the locals are doing it, so hey, it's okay if we do it too. It's not. The Deputy Governor said that the Satpol PP is taking firm measures against foreigners and locals who refuse to follow health protocols, including requiring people to undergo swab tests for COVID-19. But he said clearly these measures are insufficient, and we have also cooperated with the Ministry of Justice to deport foreigners. Pak Jamaruli said that he hoped that the routine and continuing supervision of foreigners will encourage them to follow the health protocols because they know that they're going to be watched. So, like I said in the last video, you are being watched. You need to watch yourself if you don't want to get deported. Is this happening? Is this being carried out in actuality? I don't know. I don't go down to the places where a lot of foreigners hang out. I hear lots of places still have people wandering around without masks. So, who knows? So we've seen that the government is complaining about the behavior of foreigners, but locals are not left out too. They're sanctioned. And when you hear the government, and this goes for the central government and the regional governments and the district governments, complaining about people being undisciplined, they're talking about Indonesians, not just foreigners, especially Indonesians. When they're talking generally, when they're talking specifically about foreigners, obviously they mean us. Here's one. This is kind of a funny one. So the headline in this is from Coconuts. That's Coconuts. Bali parking attendant ordered to do push-ups for wearing a shell as a mask. So a parking attendant in Denpasar was wearing half of a coconut shell on his face for a mask. And, well, generally, if you've been here, you know parking attendants, they have a whistle, they're blowing a whistle all the time, and they should be wearing masks. And the ones up here in Singaraja by my house, anyway, down on Jalan Diponegoro, yeah, they always have their mask on. And Zoe and I know them because, you know, Zoe's really popular with the parking attendants here. And so, yeah, we always have conversations. Well, this one, he had his coconut and he put a hole in it so that he could get his whistle through it. And I actually did the same thing. Well, not with a coconut, but with a mask, and I put a hole in it to put a cigarette through, just to amuse the local parking attendants, and well, they thought it was hysterical. You know, Buleleng gila, a crazy foreigner. So even though the parking attendant, well, he was wearing a mask, it didn't meet standard requirements, and so he was accosted by the officers from the Public Order Agency, Satpol PP, and they provided him with a correct mask, and they also ordered him to do some push-ups on the spot because, well, yes, he was masked, but no, it wasn't the proper mask, and so he had to do the push-ups. And according to the Satpol PP Denpasar chief, he said he didn't intend to violate the rules, but this mask was improper because it's not what the government wants, and so we had to give him a punishment. Okay, I like this one. Let's talk about opening up, right? Because that's what everybody's interested in. When are we going to open up? Well, let's take a look at what's going on in Thailand, because I talked about this a number of times. People involved in the tourism here have said that don't expect tons of people coming in here because there's going to be competition from other tourist spots in the region in Southeast Asia, and one of those is Thailand, of course, because Thailand has beautiful beaches and beautiful temples. It's a great place to go. And so let's see what they're doing, because if you remember the other day I was talking about, if you saw the last video, I was talking about how Pak Sandiaga Uno said he's going to model this opening kind of like the Phuket sandbox. And so what are they doing in Thailand? Bangkok, among 5 more provinces, reopening to foreign tourists on October 1st. And so they are moving. And is this going to affect here, what we do here in Indonesia? It could. Bangkok and 4 other provinces will be reopening to foreign tourists on October 1st, according to the government. This is the second phase of reopening following the success of the tourism sandbox scheme in Phuket and Krabi and Surat Thani. According to a government spokesperson, the Phuket sandbox has brought in 1.634 billion baht since it started 2 months ago. So that's welcome income. 5 provinces set to reopen in phase 2 are accelerating the vaccination rate and launching tourism campaigns such as the Bangkok Sandbox, Hua Hin Recharge, and charming Chiang Mai. Okay, so they have some cute little names to go with that. After phase 2, there will be a phase 3, of course, and that 21 more provinces will open, and that's due in mid-October. And that includes Chiang Rai, which is a cool place to go. And then phase 4 will happen next year in January, and that will be 13 border provinces opening under travel bubble agreements with neighboring countries. And so Thailand is ready to go. Is this going to give impetus to Pak Sandiaga Uno to get Pak Jokowi to say, okay, we're going to open up, and we'll see. We'll talk about that at the end here. So we've looked at what's happening in Thailand with opening. What about what's going on in Australia? Australians will begin using international vaccine passports within weeks to prove their immunization status overseas and on their return. And the Prime Minister says that home quarantine will be the key to reopening borders. And so when you come back, if you're Australian and you come back into the country, you're going to go into home quarantine, not into government quarantine, according to this article, which is going to save lots of money and irritation. The federal government will start issuing international COVID-19 vaccination certificates in October and is in talks with other countries to work out which vaccines will be recognized in international trade bubble arrangements. And so let's hope that they have the ones that we get here. The vaccine passports for international travel will be available for use on phones or in printed format. And the Prime Minister has promised that overseas travel can resume when states reach 80% fully vaxxed. So far, 39% of the eligible population, or more than 8 million Australians aged 16 and above, are fully vaccinated. So currently, all travelers to Australia have to undergo mandatory 2-week quarantine at the first port of arrival. And so, well, I've heard lots about how people aren't happy with that, and with the financial cost as well as the 2 weeks. And so if there is home quarantine, that's going to be a big plus. According to the Australian Health Protection Principal Committee Chief Medical Officer, Professor Paul Kelly, it's unclear which vaccines are going to allow arrivals to forego the strict hotel quarantine. So they haven't decided yet. My guess is that the Sinovac is not going to be one of the ones recognized, but who knows? Let's hope that AstraZeneca is. And a spokesman for the government said that more details about Australia's plan would be released shortly, and so we're looking forward to that. And one of the issues will be getting all of the states to agree on the vaccine passport, which apparently not all of them are agreeing to at this point. So let's hope that all the states get together and they get a vaccine passport. Boy, it would be great if Australians could start coming back into Bali once we open up. So the other day, I was talking about opening up and using the Peduli Lindungi app, that you're going to need that to get into the malls. Thank you for the information about your experience in going into the malls and having to show that you've been vaccinated. So the malls continue to remain open at this point, and visitors have to have integrated health and mobility tracker app, and you're going to need to show that. Kuta Beach, Tanah Lat, the rice terraces up in Tabanan, the Sangay Monkey Forest, Badung Regency, all of those things have opened up. and you're going to need to have proof that you've been vaccinated in order to get into any of the tourist sites, along with, of course, the malls. According to Iwayan Wasista, the Bendesa Adat of Kuta, he said that visitors and sellers need to be fully vaccinated in order to access Kuta Beach. They're going to need to have their digital certificates in the Peduli Lindungi app in order to enter Kuta Beach. And I haven't heard anything or read anything on the news about people being rejected or complaints that they weren't allowed to be in, although I could have missed it. So are there any updates on how things are going? Other beaches, Kuta Beach full? Are people really being checked in, everybody being checked when they enter? Mask wearing going on? And I wonder how this is working out. So this is high-risk groups such as pregnant women, those below 12, and those over 70 are strictly prohibited from entering shopping centers. Okay, I'm over 70. Anybody viewing over 70 and you've tried to get in, or you've seen people being turned away because they're too old? That would be interesting to find out. So I guess they're taking what they consider high risk. Kids who aren't vaccinated, pregnant women, well, who could be vaccinated, and us old folks. And the 7 malls that are open now: Level 21, Plaza Renan, Ramayana, Tiar Dewata. Oh, I used to shop there when I lived in Denpasar years ago. Duda Plaza, Trans Studio, and Carrefour. And I've shopped at Carrefour, so I've gone to 2 of those malls. That's it. I was talking Wednesday about the extension of the restrictions for another week. I said it sounds like Pak Luhut was planning on coming back to Bali again to see why we're still in level 4, and he's here. And so he's been touring around Bali with local officials, taking a look at things to see what's going on, and I guess make another push for getting the numbers down, getting the hospitalization cases down, and the numbers do continue to fall. And so let's hope tomorrow night there will be the weekly announcement about the restrictions, and let's hope that we go down to level 3 then. And just an add-on to this this segment about the apps, this is interesting. According to the governor on Friday, he said that cafes and restaurants are required to use the Peduli Lindungi app, and so people that come in are going to need to have that. Now, I don't know, as I've said before, I'm not a restaurant person, so has anybody had a situation where you've come into a restaurant in the last couple of days and been asked to show your Peduli Lindungi app or any kind of proof that you've been vaccinated? I don't know. I just saw this morning, and so I'm just kind of throwing this in here on the top just to find out if anybody knows anything, has actually seen something firsthand about this. Because, there's a lot of people that here, I'm assuming some B211s, right? And they're most likely not vaccinated, so that means they're not going to be able to go to cafes and restaurants. Would that include their co-working spaces? Interesting. So, if you know something, please make a comment. I'd like to hear about that. So what about opening up? Any new schemes? Yes, we have a new scheme, and it comes from Pak Luhut. Pak Luhut prepares international tourism opening scheme, bans backpackers is the headline. Okay, so the coordinating minister for maritime affairs, Pak Luhut, is preparing a scheme for opening up, and he hopes to open up Bali for tourism when we reach level 2. We're still at 4, right? We're hoping tomorrow that we go down to 3. Pak Luhut said that he had a meeting in Jakarta. He's talked to the governor as well, and everything is prepared. Pak Luhut said several scheme points have been prepared, and the first is that tourists will come from countries that are ready to cooperate with Indonesia or the system of a travel bubble. And travel bubbles are 2 or more countries that successfully control coronavirus and allow each other to go back and forth, usually without a quarantine. And he had a win. Are we going to open? Well, he said it depends on which country. Not every country. We're only going to take countries that are ready, and we're going to need to be at level 2 to do that. He said that Indonesia is going to screen foreign tourists coming into Bali, and he said he doesn't want backpacker-style tourists. He's looking for quality tourists. Okay, this is not going to make backpackers happy. But this is something that's been bounced around for a long time about going for quality over quantity. Be a lot less stress on our infrastructure, for one thing. Is that going to happen? Are we going to go for quality over quantity? I don't know. Pak Luhut seems to think so. He said, and I translated this, and I came up with a translation that was pretty similar to Google's. And then we filter tourists who come. We don't want backpackers who come, so that Bali is clean. People who come are of quality. And Bali is preparing international class health facilities, so that foreign tourists who come here and want to access the health facilities will be comfortable and see that the hospitals and the equipment meet high standards. Okay, and this is an idea that's been floated around in the past, and well, we've got a variety of different levels of hospitals, and not everybody agrees with him, and I've talked about this before. I personally happen to like Siloam, and I like Bali Med here in Singaraja, although I haven't been there in a few years since the pandemic, so I think they've developed a lot, and I heard they've gotten crowded. When we went there last time, it was empty. We were the only 2 patients, but they had only been open for a few months. So, yeah, having good healthcare facilities is definitely important, and getting an international class or more than one international class hospital here would be great. Pak Luhut cautioned that people of Bali have to be patient. They can't jump the gun, because if we open up and there's a problem, well, then it's going to look bad for Bali and people are not going to want to come again. So he and the government, assuming he means Pak Jokowi and Governor Koster, want to make sure that we have the COVID cases under control when we open up, so that we don't have an unfortunate situation like I talked about before in the last video, of people getting sick here and then taking it back home. So, a lot of plans here. We've got the plan for the Phuket style, and here's another plan, quality over quantity. When will you see this happen? I don't know. We're going to have to wait. But it sounds like we're getting closer and closer. Time for a wrap-up. I skipped a bunch of stuff today because it was just getting overwhelming. So let's look at what's happening so far. Numbers are going down again. More vaccines are coming in. We've gone from red to orange. We're starting to hear about plans now. In the last video, we had Pak Sandiaga Uno. Today we've got Pak Luhut. And so, is this a harbinger of good things? Are we going to go down tomorrow to level 3? And if we go down to level 3, are we going to start to hear more about opening up? And we have the example of what's going on in Thailand now. And is that going to affect the government? That Thailand is going to be opening up basically almost everything in the next month. That could get the government going and coming up with a plan to open up quicker. And we have, well, several plans. Are we going to go with quality over quantity, like Pak Luhut said? And what about backpackers? And what kind of visas are going to be open? And what country? So Pak Luhut said we have to find a country that has COVID under control. Which country has COVID under control? I don't know. He seems to think that we have it under control here. Some good news, and I'm also happy today that, wow, it's the sun, and it's not dark. Yesterday at this time I had lights on. Wow, this is not what I want to see in September. yeah, I'm pumped again. Things are looking better. My kids are okay. Meredith is still not fully recovered yet, but she's getting there, and she's feeling much better. Still doesn't have any taste. And we still have the government complaining about foreigners, and I don't know what the situation is. I'm not down there. I've seen some videos of foreigners not wearing masks and some wearing masks, and locals the same thing. And so more calls for discipline, staying the course so that we can get open soon. And boy, would it be great to see us opened up by Christmas. Will we open before then? I don't know. Wow, things are starting to move quickly again. And so on Wednesday, I'm going to talk about, the article just came out, I just saw about the Bali ombudsman said, if the malls are open, why aren't the schools open? And so I'm going to talk about that because I've been saying this for a while. If we're opening everything up, why are the schools still closed? Because we're sacrificing a generation here. My granddaughter has not been in school for 18 months. Online schooling is just not making it. It's just not the way to go. And so I'm going to talk about that. And an interesting report on a sociologist from Ubud University who thinks that with the malls being open now and things starting to roll, that tourism is going to be back sooner than we think. And so we'll talk about that too. So I want to wrap this up. I've got workers around the house now with the big rain yesterday, and we could see where we're going to have some problems when the rainy season comes, and I just don't have time to get all that stuff done by myself. So we've hired some local guys, and they're in here fixing up pipes and roofs and the roof and windows and just a lot of stuff. I think I've said this before, but you know, people say it's great living right in the ocean, isn't it? Yeah, it is. It's beautiful to look out my window, and the ocean is right there. And if I want to go snorkeling, all I got to do is walk 5 meters in front of the house, and I can go snorkeling. But it's hell on electronics and on wood and doors and everything. It makes a house age very quickly. This house is only, finished in 1998, so it's what, 23 years old, and it looks like it's about 230 years old sometimes. And and I have a video coming up to show you about what real houses are like that people live in. The house that my wife is building for my son. This is the kind of place that people live in. You know, I never use the term the real Bali because that's just thrown around so often, but you take a look at the YouTube videos and Instagram and people showing you, oh, this is what you can do in Bali. That's not how, people don't live in villas. Regular people don't live in villas. They live in places like the place we're building for my son. And so I'm going to have a little video on that just so people can see what Bali is like outside of these tourist bubbles, because it's a different reality. And sometimes the Balinese, the Indonesians become set pieces in people's videos. They look good, it looks nice, and you turn around and you say to them, oh, apa kabar, and oh, you speak Indonesian, great, and you're integrated with the locals. So some reality. Anyway, enough of that. So thanks for viewing. Stay safe. Let's keep optimistic and positive, and follow the protocols. And you know, I'm all for getting vaccinated, so get vaccinated. And if you're not going to be vaccinated, you're not going to get into Indonesia, and if you're here already and you're not vaccinated, you're going to find it increasingly hard to get anything done here. If you're a B211 and you want to get vaccinated and you can't, I put a link in the last video in the comment section. There's an app for people that are looking for places to get vaccinated here. You can take a look there. Okay, so thanks for viewing. Be kind to someone today, and see you next time.